Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital dialogues from the worlds of social media, sports, and pop culture. There was a blockbuster trade, actually a few blockbuster trades in the CCHL this week. One of them involved a forward from the Navan Grads who got traded to the Carleton Place Canadians, the reigning champs. And we're speaking to that player. We're with returning Popternative guest. We're with forward Carleton Place Canadians forward Keenan Reynolds. Keenan, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, Petey. I appreciate it. It's good to be back.
So let's just get your thoughts. I mean, Carleton Place Canadians, defending champs. Just the track record is phenomenal. I'm sure you're just ready to get in there and just get started right away.
Yeah, you look at their team. They have a winning culture. They've won the CCHL the past 4 years, and quite frankly, I'm 19 years old. I've never played a game in junior playoff hockey, so I'm very excited to come in and battle. The drive for 5 is very much alive this year.
Absolutely. And I mentioned there's a couple blockbuster trades, and the captain of the Navan Grads for many years, Zachaloum, has also been traded to Ottawa Junior Senators. So there's a lot of big moves. It just shows that Navan's going in a different direction. They're rebuilding, and players like yourself now have a chance to kind of go for the title, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, Navan, definitely no disrespect. They're a great organization run by Steve Barbin, and I think it was clear that maybe they weren't going to be in contention for the title this year, but they got a lot of good pieces, and they're in a really good spot going forwards, and I wish them nothing but the best in the future.
No, absolutely. And, we did, last time you were on Popternative was the Navan Grads. Well, back then, it was Cumberland Grad special. And you were on with a few players there, Keenan, and we're happy to have you back. And it's something interesting that social media was definitely buzzing when they found out about this news. I think the CCHL this year has very good content on social media, taking advantage of all the platforms. What was your perspective of everything that happened? Because a lot of people were, tweeting about it on social media when the trade happened, and it's kind of funny that a junior league like the CCHL can create such buzz, and it almost feels like a pro atmosphere with trades sometimes.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, when I first got the news, obviously I was contacted by Navan and then contacted by Carleton Place. My phone didn't really start blowing up until it got tweeted on the CCHL, but once that happened, I had around 50 texts just saying, "Hey, you're going to Carleton Place. Congrats, man. I'll see you when we play you," and stuff like that. And it was awesome to see. This league, it's close-knit, and the players, although we battle really hard on the ice, we like to support each other, congratulate each other, let's say if they commit or have a good game. So, you know what, it was really nice to see, and getting the support from not only my peers but also my competitors was awesome.
It happens, but it doesn't happen often. But when 16-year-olds get to play in the OHL, I think what ends up happening is that kind of creates an opportunity and creates a window of experience that usually does not allow to happen, even if you're not kind of playing a lot. You're one of those players. You got to play in the OHL when you were 16 years old. Do you think that that's kind of an element that of your game and your experiences that coaches look at, that you kind of have that experience in the OHL? You've played in really big games with really big players as well?
For me, I'm kind of jaded on this idea because obviously my career didn't go as well as I would have liked, but to have that experience, I wouldn't say having played in big games against big players, I wouldn't say that is the number one thing which is helping me. I think what it is I've gone through a lot, especially at my young age, mentally. I was scratched a whole bunch of times. My confidence was at a roller coaster that year. And truth be told, I just think I've seen everything junior hockey can throw me. I've been at the highest of highs, making the OHL at 16, and I've been at the lowest of lows, getting released. And having my whole world crash down on me, and then being sent back to the CCHL and tearing my hamstring with Cumberland last year. So, right now I think I'm just sitting on a wealth of experience, and I'm going to try to bring that to Carleton Place. And there's no better way to go out than on top.
There's a lot of no, absolutely, and there's a lot of talk about players going into different organizations, and different organizations have different systems in place. And some players have a hard time adapting to new systems, and then some players don't have a hard time, or it just takes 5-6 games to kind of get used to it. Are you aware of the Carleton Place Canadians system, and do you think that you'll adapt to it as quick as possible, or do you think it's going to be a transition?
I mean, I think there's a transition period for any player changing teams, but with that being said, I'm going to put my head down, go last in the drills and practice, and really just absorb everything I can. And I definitely think that I'm going to fit right into their system because they play hard, they play gritty, and that's the backbone of my game. So I think it's going to be a smooth transition.
Absolutely. We'll step off the ice a little bit because we've had these conversations before. You are someone that really enjoys kind of the broadcasting aspect of sports. When you pulled your hammy, you were actually my color commentator for some Grads games last season. Do you kind of see it as if you don't play hockey for the rest of your life, is sports broadcasting still a field that you kind of want to maybe pursue?
You know what? I thought about that for a while. I've never shied away from a camera. I might talk a little bit too much if you ask some of my friends, but I think that's one possible avenue I could pursue. But something I've also really always been interested in is politics, and I've always been interested about how elections work and the finer workings of the government. So I think that is also an avenue I might look to pursue at the post-secondary level.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and it's really tough because obviously you kind of don't know what the future holds at this point, right? You're gonna go into Carleton Place. It can go either way, and then it could lead to a whole different opportunity or a whole different experience for you. Is that something that you think a lot of players do, like overthink situations and kind of get anxious? Because another thing too is the thing that I think is lost in all of this is that you guys are all really you're pretty young. You're young guys, right? So it's like you're on the path of kind of finding your own way, but at the same time, do you think a lot of overthinking comes into play, like a lot more than it should?
I can tell you from my experience, overthinking it is something that a lot of young hockey players go through. You know what? Not even just hockey players, just young people in general. As they grow up and go to college, they start to overthink their decisions because this is the first time that they've really had their life in their hands. And that's just part of maturing to be an adult. I mean, I've been through a lot. I've made some bad decisions. I've made some good decisions. But at the end of the day, I'm better for it. And I would agree with you in the sense that we are young, and that shows sometimes. But at the same time, we're very mature for our age, especially to be living away from home, to be in this pro-style system. And the results speak for itself. I mean, student athletes are normally at the top of the heap in regards to marks and just attitudes in general.
You mentioned pro style and pro setting. When you mentioned that, do you think that junior hockey, especially CCHL, you're playing, it's over 60 games a season. It's a lot of games. It's a big step. Do you find it kind of more and more that because school obviously takes a big part of it, whether you're playing in the OHL, whether you're playing in the CCHL, you're going to school, but at the same time, the big kind of commitment is this huge regular season. How are you able to kind of balance that? And do you have any tips for up and coming players that are going to play in junior to help them balance that?
Yeah, it's just time management. I mean, the allure of junior hockey is that you're always going to be hanging out with your teammates, playing video games, just hanging out, playing poker, having fun. But if you delegate time to work on school every day, let's say an hour, it it truly makes a world of difference. And um, especially when I was 16, 17 in high school, um, I saw my PS4 sitting on the counter. And I was like, oh wow, I'd love to play Call of Duty right now. It took some inner talk and some inner convincing to put my controller down and really get to work. So at the end of the day, it takes some sacrifice, but it'll be worth it in the end.
And I mentioned like you giving advice to players. You have also played with a lot of very, very good, highly touted prospects. Vili Sayarvi, who's now playing in the Detroit Red Wings organization, and of course, Will Bitton, the Montreal Canadiens prospect. Have they given you kind of some advice over the years? Have you been able to kind of learn from them while playing with them? Does that come into play at all with Keenan Reynolds?
I think the biggest thing that I learned from guys like Vili and Will, and additionally guys like Chris Bigra, who plays for the Colorado Avalanche,
Yeah,
Zach
Owen Sound. Yeah,
Nastasiak,
that's right. Yeah.
Kyle Platzer. These guys all went pro, and the one thing that I took from their game is how professional they were. And every single day, they went in with a purpose. And it could be just a measly practice on a Tuesday, and they'd go in, they'd compete, and they'd get better. And that is what separates the good players from the great players, because at this level, everyone's good, everyone's has talent. So it's the people that put in that little bit of extra work that find success. And that was the biggest takeaway I had from these guys, how hard they worked when no one was watching.
So I don't know where it ranks because you played on a lot of teams, and I don't know what the locker room dynamic was with your other teams. But when I was doing the play-by-play for the Grads last year, I saw that there was a lot of players on that team. Like there was a family. Like it was like there was like 6 or 7 guys that it's like they instantly became brothers, and it's like I saw it and you see it off and on the ice, and it's just fantastic to see. Where does like Navan rank in terms of some of the dressing rooms that you've been in over the years? Is it up there at all?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I can say about last year in Cumberland and this year in Navan is obviously I was going through a really tough time in my life
Yeah,
when I got
the
there.
hamstring. Yeah,
And not only the hamstring, but also being released, right?
yeah.
It was really crushing because that was my dream. I wanted to make it the NHL, and being released from the OHL was kind of like your dream's over. And I came back to that team, and they could have made fun of me for it. They could have teased me for it, but instead they picked me up as a group and made me one of their own. And I will be forever grateful, because if they hadn't have done that, who knows? I may have quit hockey, because I was at a really low point in my life, and these guys, like I said, brought me in and made me love the game again.
Hmm.
And even this year in Navan, new guys came in: Mike Locatelli,
Hmm.
Mike McPherson, just great guys that came in and became some of my best friends. So
Hmm.
just because I'm not on Navan anymore doesn't mean that relationship's going to be over.
Yeah.
I have a lot of really good friends on that team, and when we play Navan next, I'm for sure going to be going over to giving the guys some hugs.
Well, what I find funny is I've done a few like HEO AAA AT paddles, and we had one where it was like a huge paddle where we had like it was like 7 players on one episode, and 2 of the players that were on, like they were playing each other that night. So I found it kind of funny, and I see that a lot, especially like when I was doing games. The way you talk to certain players after the games, everyone kind of knows each other. You mentioned Locatelli; he's a player that should be coming on the show soon for a CCHL panel. And guys, like there's so many guys, and it's just the switch gets turned off because you want to like play hard, like you said, and then afterwards it's like your friends,
Yeah.
you're texting. I always found that an interesting perspective of hockey, but I think that's a junior hockey thing. I don't think that carries. Do you think that carries over?
You know what? I definitely think it does. Like
Okay.
you see these guys that are pros. I'll look to Mark Scheifele and Tyler Sagan before the game
Yeah.
doing the rock paper scissors to see who gets off the ice first. I mean, that at its purest level is that's hilarious. That's friendship.
Yeah.
That's jokes. So I mean, it's definitely to a lesser degree in pro hockey, just because these guys are battling for their families and their jobs and their livelihood.
Hmm.
But there's definitely some friends on different teams in the NHL, and they like to go at it when they play each other.
Absolutely. Well, Keen, we'll wrap up soon. But like, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We wish you all the best at Carleton Place. And just before we go, I mentioned this to you last time, and I got like a good answer, but it was like a goofy answer. But I want to see if you can kind of give me like a more serious answer. We were talking about misconceptions, and you said one of the misconceptions is that the hair of the hockey
Oh
players.
yes.
But it's like I always like asking players this, the misconceptions, and I think you kind of brought up a lot of them in the beginning of the episode about how like kind of the time management and all that. But are there some things that you're kind of learning now that like with the trade and overall like you getting sent down from the OHL that you're kind of just like, wow, if people think they know how it works, they don't know anything. Like, have you ever had any of those specific things come to mind? Like, oh, people, like, because it does happen, right?
Yeah, I think a large misconception that people have of junior hockey players is that we're all just these dumb jocks that just go out and beat each other over the head with hockey sticks. Some of the most intelligent people I've ever met have been hockey players. The coaches that I've had, some of them have been former players, have been unbelievably intelligent with a wealth of knowledge, and I think the stereotype might stem from a little bit of jealousy. They see us, they see the life that we're living, and the Instagram followers, the signing contracts, the NHL and stuff like that, and they become a bit jaded. But what they don't see is, like I mentioned, these guys who go pro, they're in the gym when no one else is there. They're working their butts off, and they're doing everything they can to achieve their dream. Because at the end of the day, everyone plays junior hockey for one reason, and that's because as a kid, they dreamed of playing pro hockey. And I would say that's the biggest misconception, that we just get it because we're talented and there's no work that goes into it.
Absolutely. Well, Keenan, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this interview. I hope you have as well. It's always a pleasure talking to you, man.
Appreciate it, Petey. I hope you have a great day.
You too. All right, so you can catch previous episodes of Popternative on our website. You can subscribe on YouTube as well. Be sure to follow Keenan on all his social media. All the links will be in the description. You can like us on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter. Until next time, this is Keenan Reynolds and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.